A dozen red roses, a box of chocolates, a Valentine's Day card, sugary hearts with messages of love. The one day a year we feel free or maybe obligated to share our feelings of love and affection. This is what Valentine's Day has become in the modern era. But the origins of this day of love are actually quite dark and bloody and not perfectly clear. From the Roman Lupercalia celebrated February 13th through the 15th, which included a matchmaking lottery, to at least 3 3rd century Christian martyrs named Valentine, who were decapitated on February 14th. Valentine's Day had respectively pagan and gruesome beginnings. As the years went on, the holiday grew sweeter. Chaucer and Shakespeare both romanticized it in their work, and it gained popularity throughout Britain and Europe. Handmade paper cards became the tokens du jour in the Middle Ages. Eventually, the tradition made its way to the New World, and by 1913, Hallmark Cards of Kansas City, Missouri began mass-producing Valentine's Day cards. Whatever the true origins of Valentine's Day may be, we don't care. Tonight, we focus on the remarkable stories and songs of love from Celtic lands.
Gypsy lady's lips, not for you and for all your money, oh. Why do you leave your house, your land? Why do you leave your money, oh? And why do you leave your 2 fine babes to go away with the raggle-taggle gypsy, oh? And why do you leave your fine feather bed with the covered dress so cozy, oh? And why would you leave your only wedded lord to run away with the raggle-taggle gypsy, oh? a plowboy, but a soldier I'm now. I courted lovely Molly as I followed the plow. Yes, I courted lovely Molly from the age of 16, and now I must leave her and serve James the King. Oh, Molly, lovely Molly, I delight in your charms, and there's many a long night you have laid in my arms. But if ever I return again, it'll be in the spring, where the mavis and the turtle dove and the nightingale sing. You can go to the market, you can go to the fair, you can go to church on Sunday and meet your true love there. But if anybody loves you half as much as I do, I won't stop your marriage. Fare thee well and adieu. Oh, Molly, lovely Molly, I delight in your charms, and there's many a long night you have laid in my arms. But if ever I return again, it'll be in the spring, where the mavis and the turtle dove and the nightingale sing.
Gráinne Whale, Grace O'Malley, my ancestor, is one of the most famous women in Irish history. She was born in 1533 and lived until the ripe old age of 70, which was quite unusual in those days to live so long. Gaelic historians have never given enough time or written the praises of prominent Irish women throughout the ages. Even so, we do know a fair bit about Grace. She was born into the O'Malley seafaring clan of County Mayo in the west of Ireland. At the age of 9, she shaved her head to convince her father and clan leader, Owen of the Black Oak, that she could be and looked like any man, so he would take her to sea with him, much to her mother's chagrin. Owen taught her the ways of the sea, navigation, trading throughout the Mediterranean Sea as far as Africa. He also taught her piracy, by which the clan achieved great wealth, a strong fleet of galleys, and several galleons and barks. She entered her first arranged marriage at the age of 16 with Donal O'Flaherty of the powerful neighbouring O'Flaherty clan, who ruled all of Connemara and Galway. He was an angry 18-year-old prone to drinking and fighting, and was killed in a revenge ambush when he was only 23. After his death, Grace was allowed to return to her own family with her 3 children and her dowry. Then she began the climb to take over the fleet and manage all the seafaring activities of the O'Malley clan, while her brother Donal of the Pipes, who was then the clan leader, tended to the herds of cattle and the farming of their lands, which was quite extensive. Grace was well known as a swashbuckling character, a gambler, a drinker, and a fighter. It was said she was also quite a promiscuous woman. She took whomever she chose from her crew to her bedchamber whenever she liked. She was never one to mince words, and some say a woman driven to achieve her ambitions. In her 30s, she entered her second arranged marriage with Richard Burke, or Richard in Iron as he was known, because he always wore iron when he travelled. The Burkes were a very strong Anglo-Irish Norman family in North Mayo, and this union assured that her lands would be well protected north and south by both the Burkes and the O'Flahertys. As was custom in Ireland for centuries, through the old Celtic Brehon laws, a woman had the opportunity to divorce her husband up to 1 year after being married, and this Grace did to Richard. However, she bore him a son, Thibault, known as Toby of the Ships. The birth of Toby was quite remarkable. She gave birth on board her galleon during a fight on deck with Turkish pirates. One of her men pleaded with her to assist her crew, and she appeared on deck, still bloody from giving birth, wrapped in a sheet, and everyone froze at the sight of her. She fired the blunderbuss she had brought up from her cabin, killed the Turkish captain, rallied her crew, defeated the Turkish ship, and took it for the O'Malleys. And now we get to the part, the love story of Grace. One dark and stormy night, she received word that a ship had foundered on the rocks of Achill Island. Now Achill Island came under the jurisdiction of the O'Malleys, so even though any ship foundering was fair game to the public under maritime law back then, nobody would dare cross Grace, so she had first dibs. When she arrived at the wreckage, she found a man face down in the sand, almost dead. She was said to have murmured how beautiful he was, and they took him battered and bruised back to one of her castles, and Grace nursed him back to health. He was much younger than Grace. His name was Hugh de Lacy, from County Wexford, also from an old Anglo-Norman family, and Grace fell deeply in love for the first time in her life. After only 6 months of bliss together, Hugh was murdered by the McMahon clan during a hunting expedition, an act they would soon regret. Driven into a frenzied rage over the murder of her lover, Grace personally tracked the killers to the holy island of Care in Mayo. There, everyone who had crossed her path died at the grieving woman's hands, and all their boats were burnt. This was not enough revenge for the fearless Grace, so she travelled to Ballycroy and stormed Doona Castle, the family home of the McMahons, and took it for herself. There are many books about this amazing woman, and it still amazes me that no one has done a mini-series or a movie about her life. She was one of the most courageous, loyal, and adventurous people in Irish history.
Every time I hear a sweet bird singing, I think of you and I, my love. I think of you and I when I hear those evening bells a ringing. I Every time I hear a sweet voice humming, my heart leaps in my breast, my love. My heart leaps in my breast. And until I hear your footsteps coming, my heart will know no rest, my love. My heart will know no rest. I will love you. I will love you. When we are gone, I will love you. I will love you. When we are gone, I will love you. I will love you. When we are gone.
One, two, three. Fare thee well, my darling Liza, 1,000 times adieu. We are going away from the holy ground, and the girls we all love true.
That's us.
We will sail the salt sea over, and we'll return once more to see again the girls we love on the holy ground once more.
Fine girl you
You're
are!
the girl I do adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more.
Fine girl you
And
are!
now we're on the sea a-sailing, and you are far behind. Kind letters I will write to you, tell you of my mind, and the secrets of my mind, my love. You're the girl I do adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more.
Fine girl you
You're
are!
the girl I
missed one, didn't I?
King Conor MacNassa had newly come to his throne in Auanmacca. Valentine the Harper invited Conor and his warriors of the Red Branch to a feast. In that time, harpers were held in high esteem and almost as powerful as the king himself. So it was a great honor to be invited to a feast at a harper's home. Valentine was in high spirits on this night because his wife was about to give birth to their first child. He asked if Conor's druid Cabad would make a prophecy to tell him what was in store for his baby. Cabad placed his hands on Valentine's wife's womb and said that the child was going to be a girl and her name would be Deirdre, and she would grow up to be the most beautiful woman who ever lived. But, he said, she will be the cause of so much sorrow that the Red Branch will split in two. When they heard this, the men of the Red Branch demanded the child be killed there and then, before she had a chance to fulfill her destiny. Conor, being a merciful king, stopped them. He said he would not contribute to the death of a child in the house of his father, but he would take the child when she was born. He would have her raised in secret, and if she grew to be as beautiful as Cabad foretold, he would marry her himself and put her in such a high position no man dare look at her. So Conor had his old nurse, Valentine, take the baby to a hidden valley and raise the child away from everyone. From time to time he would visit to see how Deirdre was getting along. She grew up every bit as beautiful as had been prophesied, but she didn't have much affection for Conor, even though he was fair and handsome and had no shortage of female admirers. Lauricum was very protective of Deirdre and was careful that no one saw her. The only person besides Conor she led into the valley was an old man who would help with the work. He was mute and could tell no one about the girl in the valley and her enchanting beauty. One day in the springtime, when the snow was still on the ground and Deirdre was almost a woman, Lauricum had the old man slaughter a calf. The blood spilled out onto the snow, and a raven glided down to eat the bloody snow. When Deirdre saw this, she cried out and went into a faint. Lauricum thought she had been upset at the sight of blood, but Deirdre told her nurse that she had fallen in love with these three colors, and she would only give her love to a man with hair as black as a raven, skin as white as snow, and cheeks as red as blood. She asked Lauricum if she knew of any man who looked like this, and Lauricum, unable to deny Deirdre anything, told her of the youngest son of Ishnach, a warrior of the Red Branch. Young and brave and beautiful, his name was Nisha, and he had the coloring Deirdre loved. He was inseparable from his brothers, Anla and Ardan, and he was the most handsome warrior of the Red Branch Knights. Deirdre pestered Lauricum to find some way for her to see Nisha, but because of fear of Conor's anger, she refused. She told Deirdre she'd see him soon enough when she married the king, and took her to Auanmacca with him. But Deirdre was relentless and would not be put off, and eventually Lauricum gave in. The next time she went to Awamaka, she told the sons of Ishnach there was wonderful hunting in the valley where she lived, and to be sure to go there next time they went hunting. She told Deirdre she could spy on them when they came, but to make sure she wasn't seen. When the brothers came to the valley to hunt, Deirdre fell in love with him the moment she saw him. And before Lauracum could stop her, she stepped out to greet him. She smiled at Nisha, and he fell completely in love with her the moment he saw her. Deirdre asked Nisha if he would run away with her, but he knew who she must be, and he knew that she belonged to Connor, his king. He refused, and Deirdre put a kiasa on him that he had to run away with her. Nisha had no choice then but to get Deirdre as far away from Awamaka as he could before the king found out. His brothers Anla and Ardon refused to be separated from him, and the four of them fled Awamaka. After Connor found out about Nisha and Deirdre's betrayal, all he could think about was Deirdre.
1, 2, 3. Of all the stars that ever shone, not one could twinkle like your pale blue eyes, and like golden corn at harvest time your hair. Sailing in my boat, the wind gently blows and fills my sails. Your sweet scented breath is everywhere. Daylight peeping through the passing curtains of the nighttime. Is it your smile? The sun in the sky, is it like you laugh? Come back to me, my Deirdre. Linger for just a little while. Since you left these shores, I know no peace nor joy. No matter where I wander, I'm still haunted by your name. The portrait of your beauty stays the same. Standing by the ocean, wondering where you've gone, if you'll return again. Oh, where is that ring I gave to Deirdre Gal? On a day in spring, when the snow starts to melt and the streams to flow, Ah, with the birds I'll sing a song. In a while I'll wander down by Bluebell Grove where wildflowers grow, and hope that lovely Deirdre will return. No matter where I wander, I'm still haunted by your name. The portrait of your beauty stays the same. Standing by the ocean, wondering where you've gone, if you'll return again. Where is that ring I gave to Deirdre Gal? Standing by the ocean, wondering where you've gone, if you'll return again. Where is that ring I gave to Deirdre Gal? Where is that ring I gave to Deirdre Gal? Ah, where is that ring I gave to Deirdre Gal?
As Conor lamented over the loss of Deirdre, there was nowhere in Ireland she and Naoise could be safe. So the sons of Uisneach took Deirdre across the sea to Scotland. The brothers entered into service with the King of Scotland and became part of his army. But to keep Deirdre safe, they never stayed with the other warriors. At the end of every day, they would go off to no one knew where. The Scottish king became suspicious and decided to find out what secret they were keeping from him, and sent spies to follow them. The spies reported back that the three brothers went to a camp in the heart of the wilderness, where they were greeted by the most beautiful woman any of them had ever seen. As soon as the king heard about this great beauty, he wanted her for himself. He knew he couldn't kill them because they had sworn to serve him. So he put them on the front line of every battle, hoping they would be killed. They were such great warriors that this didn't work. And eventually, Deirdre realized what was happening and warned Naoise and his brothers of the danger they were in. They left the King of Scotland's service and fled further into the wilderness, coming at last to a remote island in the north. They lived in the wilds for many years. Meanwhile, back in Owenmaka, when Conor thought of Naoise and Deirdre, he would go into a rage. Fergus MacRee, the only one brave enough to raise the subject, and being very fond of the sons of Uisneach, never stopped asking Conor to forgive them and let them come home. He made so many arguments and so many pleas that Conor finally gave in. He told Fergus he could invite the brothers back and to place them under Fergus's protection as a guarantee for their safety. So Fergus went to Scotland, and when he landed on the shore, he gave out a shout. Far in the wilds, Naoise was playing chess with Deirdre. When he heard the shout, he jumped to his feet saying, "That's the shout of an Irishman." But Deirdre said it was not. It was definitely the shout of a Scotsman. Fergus shouted from the beach again, and Naoise jumped up again saying, "That's the shout of an Ulsterman." Again, Deirdre persuaded him it wasn't. Then Fergus shouted a third time, and Naoise cried, "That's the shout of Fergus MacRee." And nothing Deirdre said could persuade him otherwise. He asked Deirdre why she had lied, and she told him she had had a dream the night before. A raven had flown to Scotland from Ireland with 3 drops of honey on its beak. But when it landed, the honey turned to blood, prophesying the death of Naoise and his brothers. But Nisha and his brothers were so excited about seeing Fergus, they dismissed her dream as a woman's imaginings and rushed to greet their dear friend. Fergus told the wonderful news that Connor had finally been persuaded to forgive them and take them back into the Red Branch. The brothers were thrilled, but on the voyage back to Ireland, Deirdre never once took her eyes off the shoreline of Scotland. She sang a lament for having to leave the mountains and lochs of Scotland, the only home she had ever been happy in.
By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love would never want to go, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. But me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. 'Twas there that we parted in yon shady glen, by the steep, steep side of Ben Lomond, in the soft purple hue, the healing hills we view, and the moon coming out in the glow, man. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. But me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. The wee birdies sing and the wildflowers spring, and in sunshine the waters are sleeping. But the broken-hearted sees no second spring again, and resigned we must be in our parting. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. But me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Yes, me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond.
When they landed on the shore of Ulster, a local man came to invite Fergus to a feast. There was a gyasa on Fergus, never to refuse a feast in his honour, and so he could not refuse. Now this man had prepared the feast at Connor's request. He was not nearly so ready to forgive as Fergus thought. And while Fergus was at the feast, they no longer were under his protection. Deirdre begged Fergus not to desert them. She was sure something terrible would happen. But because of the gyasa, he could not refuse. But he put them under his son Fiachu's protection. When they arrived at Awan Macha, Connor did not come out to greet them. He sent Lauricum instead. Lauricum told Nisha hide Deirdre's face and brought them to the speckled house, where the warriors of the Red Branch hung their weapons. They were given food and drink, and Nisha and Deirdre played chess to pass the time. When Lauricum returned to Connor, he asked her if Deirdre was still beautiful. Lauricum said, "The wilderness has ruined my poor Deirdre. She is a hag. Her skin is weathered and grey, her fingernails dirty and broken. What teeth she has left are yellow, and her hair is as coarse as a horse's tail." Connor wasn't sure he could trust Lauricum, so he sent a servant to spy on them. When Nisha saw the man looking through the window, he threw a chess piece at him that knocked out his eye. The man came back to Connor with one eye missing, saying it was worth the price to have seen Deirdre, and he would gladly give his other eye to look at her again, so great was her beauty. At this, Connor went into a rage and called on his warriors to attack Nisha and the sons of Ishnach. But half the men refused to attack their former brothers in arms. The others attacked the speckled house. The sons of Ishnach put Deirdre in the middle of them and stood shoulder to shoulder in a circle around her. They were able to fight any number of men that came at them. Fergus' son Fiuchu fought Connor's son in single combat. Conall Ciarnach saw a man fighting the king's son, and without pausing to see who it was, struck Fiuchu down dead. It's when he saw who it was, he cried, "A king's son for a king's son," and cut off the head of Connor's son. Connor could see that his men were making no headway, so he went to Cabba the Druid for help. Cabba agreed to help him, but only if Connor swore he would not kill the sons of Ishnach. Connor agreed and said he only wanted Nisha to apologize and all would be forgiven. So Cabba sent a spell that surrounded the sons of Ishnach with a black and hungry sea, making them swim while fighting their foes, even though they were on dry land. Eventually, exhaustion overcame them, and their weapons slipped from their fingers. Connor's men seized them, and Connor said that while he couldn't kill them himself, he would give a fortune to any man who would. None of the men from the Red Branch stepped forward, but at last one man did. He was the son of the King of Norway. Nisha had killed his father in a battle long ago. He said he would be glad to kill them. Nisha said he had a sword given to him by the sea god Manannán mac Lir that could cut down anything in front of it. He asked the Norwegian to use this sword and cut off their heads at the same time. And so that is what he did. The three sons of Ishnach laid their heads down on the same block, and the Norwegian swung the sword and chopped their heads off all at once. When Fergus came back from the feast and saw the sons of Ishnach dead, as well as his own son, he burned Awan Macha to the ground. Then he and half of the Red Branch warriors who had refused to take part in the fight, they left Ulster. They went to Connor's greatest enemy, Queen Maeve of Connacht, and pledged their service to her. Connor put Deirdre in a beautiful house and surrounded her with the finest things. He began to court her, but Deirdre's hatred toward him was so great she couldn't look at him or speak to him or acknowledge his presence. She cast aside every gift he gave her and took no joy in the luxuries surrounding her. Famed for his beautiful voice, he would sing outside her window, but she would shut the window, complaining of a horrible noise. After a year of this, Connor grew angry and asked her if there was any man she hated more than him. Deirdre said, "I hate you with all my heart, but I hate the Norseman more because he killed my Nisha." So Connor said, "In that case, I'm going to give you to the Norseman for a year to do with as he pleases, and we'll see if you're kinder to me after that." He sent for the Norseman to take Deirdre away. They placed her in a chariot between the two of them. On the way to the Norseman's home, they passed by a place where the road went precariously near a cliff. Deirdre flung herself out of the chariot, over the cliff, her head smashing onto the rocks below. She was buried in Auanmacca, near where Nisha and his brothers lay. But Connor couldn't bear the thought of them touching, even in death. And he had stakes of wood driven into the ground between them. But the wood grew roots down into the graves, and two trees grew up, entwined together.
Once upon a nursery rhyme, sweet meadow, sage, rosemary, and thyme, there lived a boy by the lily pond. His legs were willows, his arms made of fronds. Now this willow boy, he wasn't always so. He was made of flesh and bone, you know. He was a farmer boy in the kingdom of old, and he dreamed by night of a maid fair as gold. Well, he dreamed by day, and he dreamed by starlight, and she came into being one moonlit night. Down a comet's tail she came, his own true love, his own twin flame. She was sweet of temper and full of grace. She had golden hair and a radiant face. Her eyes, they were an enchanting green. She was a vision. She was made from his dream. So a year and a day they lived in bliss. Cupid's arrow their love did kiss. Their romance spread throughout the land until it came to the king firsthand. Well, the king, he viewed this beautiful maid, and lust grew in his heart, and there it stayed. To own this vision became his quest. Without her in his arms, he would not rest. So he offered her riches, and he offered her fame. She'd be queen of the land if to him she came. He offered her servants and velvet gloves, but the one thing he could not give her was love. My heart, it belongs to the farmer boy. It's his love that brings me joy. I was created by his desire, and without him I will expire. So as long as my love does live and stand, I'll stay by his side and no other man's. Your offers, they may turn another's head, but it's my own true love
that I will wed. So the king, he devised a devious scheme to enchant the boy and steal his dream. In human form he would no longer be, but live by the lily pond as a tree. Well, the king, he thought, how clever a plan. The boy isn't dead, but he isn't a man. So the maid, she will have to leave his side and come to the king to be his bride. But the dark never wins, as all fairy tales go. The king's plan did fail, mud, rain, and snow. Because the maid came from the boy's dream, she returned to the cosmos on a light beam. So once upon a nursery rhyme, sweet meadow sage, rosemary, and thyme, there lived a boy by the lily pond. His legs were willows, and his arms made of fronds. This willow boy, he was not always so. He was made of flesh and blood, you know. He was changed by the king to a willow tree to live by the lily pond for eternity. But still he dreamed by day, and he dreamed by starlight, of his own true love with her hair so bright. Till again down a comet's tail she came, his own true love, his own twin flame. She came in his image, a willow tree, her leaves so green and lovely to see. And there they lived gracefully, limbs entwined for eternity.
We hope you enjoyed our take on Valentine's Day. And to prove there's at least one happy Celtic love song and not leave you too depressed, we end our show with a silly love song popular in Cornwall in the south of England. Feel free to sing along. The other night I had a dream, the funniest dream of all. I dreamt that I was kissing you behind the garden wall, and she said,
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you in the springtime and the fall.
Honey!
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you best of all.
Honey!
now tell me, honey, tell me, do, who is the one you love? Oh, tell me, honey, tell me, do, who is your turtle dove? And she said,
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you in the springtime and the fall.
Honey, honey, honey.
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you best of all.
Honey!
I took my baby home last night beneath the spreading vine. I put my arms around her waist and pressed her lips to mine, and she said,
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you in the springtime and the fall.
Honey, honey, honey!
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you best of all.
Honey!
I went to call for my best girl. Her bulldog flew at me. It bit me in the old back porch beside the maple tree, and she said,
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you in the springtime and the fall.
Honey, honey, honey!
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you best of all.
Honey!
Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you in the springtime and the fall. Little eyes, I love you, honey. Little eyes, I love you, honey. I love you best
the summertime has come, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will ye go, laddie, go? And we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, laddie, go? Nightingale has a lyre of gold, the lark has a clarion call, and the blackbird plays but a boxwood flute. I love him best of all. Will ye go, laddie, go? I will range through the wild and the deep glen so dreamy, and return with the spoils to the bower, oh my dearie. Will ye go, laddie, go? And we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, laddie, go? I still love him best of all. His song is the joy of life. We laughed and loved from spring till fall, our lips and hearts together. Will ye go, laddie, go? If my true love